Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here with you again. And boy, we're zeroing in on 400. Can you believe it? 400 episodes of the EdUp Experience. And as we record this, we are literally 1 week away from our actual 2-year anniversary, which our original introduction episode was released on January 25th of 2020. So here we are, literally almost 2 years later, with almost 400 episodes, 110,000 downloads. The ride continues, and we're bringing people along with us. We've gotten some great co-hosts and some great guests and some great combinations together. That's what makes this podcast, I think, so valuable, is that anybody could be a part of it. It's literally your podcast. That's why we say your all the time, because you could be a part of it. You want to come co-host with me. You want to literally take over the episode like my co-host that I've brought today with me, you could do that too. And I'm going to bring him in now. He is a professor. He's from the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at the University of Texas at Arlington. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Dr.
Hi, Joe.
Karbari, what's happening?
Nothing much. It's just great to be here and great to be on the EdUp Experience.
And we're going to have an experience.
I'm sure you are. It's always great to listen to the show, and it's always great to be part of it.
By the way, this is the best thing I could find for aerospace engineering. You know, it's like a charge, right?
Okay, that's more like an electrical engineer getting a shock because they didn't pay attention.
Yes, I'm going to shock you if you ask bad questions. I'm excited today because we have a guest with us who, well, let me say this. When we talk about the EdUp Experience being global podcast, we really mean it. And really, we had our first taste of that global experience when we went to Doha in December of 2021. And in Doha, Qatar, we met a number of amazing people. And so literally, we're getting on a bus, and we're on this bus, and they say, hey, you're all part of the media. We have no idea who anybody is, right? There's just all these people. Everybody's looking around at each other. Nobody's saying anything. And so we see this very young lady get on the bus with us, and you know, she's Indian and she comes from India, and she starts talking, and then we start talking, and we find out that she's the senior editor of the Times of India. And so we start talking to her, and we say, hey, you want to come in the EdUp Experience and talk about your experience? And she said yes. So here she is, ladies and gentlemen. Priyanka Srivastava. She is senior editor at Times of India, Education Times. Priyanka, what's happening?
Hi everyone. Good morning. It's morning in India. So everything is beautiful here. Yeah.
It's night for us and morning in India. That's the way we do it.
Yes, of course. It's a beautiful morning. It's very cold, actually. The northern part of India is shivering these days.
Well,
so
let me ask you first, Priyanka, how did you enjoy your time at the World Innovation Summit for Education in Doha?
For me, it was an eye-opener to see as to how the space is growing from strength to strength. The remarkable part was the youngsters who were involved in the space of education in the form of working for the NGOs, or they are starting their own edtech companies, or maybe they are an innovator in their own ways. So all that was pretty interesting to note, that education is not just restricted to institutes, to colleges and schools. That was the biggest takeaway for me.
You know, when we started talking, before I pass it over to Vistas for questions that he has, you said you worked for the Times of India, and I guess many of us weren't familiar with the Times of India and how expansive your readership is. I mean, Times of India is a massive online and actual print publication. Can you tell us about how big Times of India is in terms of its exposure?
Well, Times of India is one of the largest dailies, and it is circulated in most of the cities in India. I may not be able to reveal the numbers, but yes, it is read by most English-speaking readers, and it covers everything, all aspects of life, honestly speaking. It covers politics, it covers entertainment, it covers sports, it covers education in a big way. So yes, we are covering everything and we are reaching out to the larger population in India.
So what's happening? Tell us what's happening from your perspective as senior editor, Education Times at Times of India. Is education in India growing? Higher education growing? Is educational technology companies growing? Where's your eye as senior editor? Where are the stories when it comes to the India higher education market?
Well, India, if you ask me, is growing massively in terms of education. The government has recently introduced national education policy to revamp the education structure. And if you ask me personally, it is divided into three sections. First is to give education to the grassroots people who have never been to school. So the first generation learners need to go to the schools. Second is the middle class, who is quite focused towards education of their children. So we may term them as helicopter parents, but they are doing a massive job of educating their children, sending them to private schools or to proper universities, giving a lot of emphasis on higher education. And third is the growth of higher education, which includes the growth of IITs, technical colleges, engineering colleges, IIMs, the big management schools, the B schools, and a lot of liberal education schools, which are coming up in big way. So these are the three sections where the focus is. And if India wants to grow in the education sector, they will have to give emphasis to all these three sectors. We need to make the, so to say, the poor people go to the schools and take education. We want to strengthen the schooling system where the emphasis should be in case if we want to make our research section grow. And then the higher education system, which is anyway expanding, and we are coming up with good technicians and technological advanced students, management graduates, and liberal art students.
Vistasp, you know a thing or two about getting education in India.
Yeah, I do, since I got my bachelor's and my master's there. But I'd like to turn the conversation a little bit to, let's say, Priyanka, to find out what took her into journalism and what took her into the educational aspect of journalism.
Visab, the thing is, I have done master's in science. I'm an MSc in zoology, specialization in animal physiology.
Right, that's what I was always from your CV. Yeah.
Yes, I am. But I never wanted to be a researcher or, wanted to do PhD in science. I wanted to be a journalist, and I started off as a science reporter. That time journalism was growing up. It is still growing in a big way. And India being a very populous country, it is important for journalists to, reach out to every part of the section that we have. Education is my recent stint. I started as a science reporter. I worked at various other sections, politics and entertainment and all. But education is something which is now very close to my heart, because I see a lot of things happening here. Every day is a new day. And there are a lot of challenges which we need to overcome. There are a lot of things that the world is looking at, and the society, Indian society, is also striving to achieve. And education is the only way India can actually be in the global map. And that's how we are. I'm sure you would agree with me. It's only because of education that Indians are getting prominence. They are owning the companies. They are the CEOs of prominent companies. So I think education is something that will empower India like no other thing would.
You're absolutely right. But what do you see as the future of education in India? I mean, the scale at which the new education policy is trying to sort of look at higher ed even to almost double the number of students seems to be an enormous undertaking.
Yeah, actually, when you are saying that we are trying to double the number, that's the biggest problem, honestly, if you ask me, because the emphasis is on doubling the number. The emphasis is not on quality. And that's where we are going wrong. And you would agree with me that our education system is largely based on rote learning.
Yes,
there is absolutely zero importance on practical learning. NEP is trying to change that, but it will take some time. Our schooling pattern needs to be changed. The way teachers are teaching in the classrooms needs to be changed. The way we are programmed to take up education needs to be changed. So there are a lot of challenges which needs to start from the basic level. That is where the challenge is. The challenge is not just how we are coming up with more number of IITs and more IIMs. That will come later. But the first thing is how we are going to change the concept of schooling, which is based on rote learning, how we can make it more hands-on, more practical, more interesting, so to say, so that we are giving the real knowledge to people. So when we talk about increasing the number, yes, that is important. But it is also important to make them understand what we are teaching them. And they should look that they have acquired the education that we gave them in the schools.
You're absolutely correct. And I haven't seen too much in terms of discussion in the media about quality versus quantity. Is this something that is starting to be discussed in India now, or was it just sort of the euphoria over a new education policy, so it's still moving forward as is?
I don't know if you remember, the NEP was last introduced during Rajiv Gandhi's regime. After
Right, so
that,
it's been
there
quite a
was
while.
absolutely, yeah, it's quite a while. And nobody thought of it. And I wonder why, considering that, we are this is a young country, and there are large number of people who are going to the schools and everything. And there have been emergence of several private schools, which are either based on international education, IB, ICSC, and everything. But there was absolutely zero discussion on the quality of education that we are imparting to our youngsters. And I'm glad that NEP is trying to do that, though in a very small way, but it needs to be discussed. It is something that is the need of the hour. Otherwise, we'll not be able to give the students what they actually expect. And this actually goes on to speak why Indian students excel when they go to America or to any other country, why they are not able to show the similar kind of talent when they are in India. Maybe due to excessive competition, but largely due to lack of connect between knowledge and the practical application of it.
Well, here's a question for you guys. I'm going to give you a quiz question here. Are you ready, Priyanka and Vistas? We'll see
Yes.
who can answer it. Here we go. Tell me what these companies have in common. Ready? Google, Microsoft, IBM, Adobe, and Twitter.
Well, they all have Indian origin CEOs.
Say again, Priyanka. That is correct. Say it again.
They all have Indian origin CEOs.
They all have an Indian origin CEOs, and that says a lot about. Does that say a lot about the education that students in India are getting? They come to the United States and they're experiencing great success. I think this has been evolving over time, but having seven massive. I read a statistic that said that there's like 30% of CEOs are of Indian descent, and their total combined worth is like $530 billion, which is more than all but 40 countries in the world. What's that say about Indian leaders coming out of India, education coming out of India? What do you think, Priyanka? What does that say?
I think it speaks a lot about Indian education system. It speaks about the total nature of Indian students. They're very hardworking, go-getters, and they know where they're lacking. So they definitely try to improve upon that. I think most of the CEOs have come from IITs, except for Microsoft Satya Nadella. I think he's from Manipal University, if I'm not wrong. Rest, everybody is from IIT. Even Parag Agrawal, who has recently taken over as the CEO of Twitter, is from IIT. Yes, it speaks a lot about IITs and the technical knowledge which is imparted. But yes, they all went to America to get further education, and obviously they learned from the American university system, and maybe they were into research, they studied, and then they understood. But it speaks about the kind of foundation they got in India. Of course, I'm very proud of that.
One of the things that is really interesting, and I found this, and I've talked about this on previous episodes, people are probably getting sick of me saying it, but in in the global community, Priyanka, as we both experienced when we were in Doha, I felt like people there really valued higher education. You know, there was a lot of talk about the value of higher education, how it's foundational to success and growing the lower to middle class populations in these different countries. And I was able to, and you were able to interview people literally from different countries and leaders making decisions for these countries. And then here in the United States, we always have this conversation around the value of higher education. Talk to me about India and students in India and the public in India. Is higher education valued at a high degree, or is there a lot of question on the purpose of higher education?
It is valued a lot. Without sounding sort of judgmental about it, but Indians are said to be exam takers and degree collectors. This is one of the notions in India. So you may come across a lot of youngsters who are acquiring degree for the sake of it. That is one part of it. Having said that, there are many students who want to take up higher education, who want to get into research because they are passionate about the subjects that they are learning. So higher education is definitely valued in India. We need more and more higher education institutes, and we need to impart quality education in those institutes, and we need better teachers also to cater to the large population that is coming to higher education. Yes, I think we give a lot of importance to higher education.
That's Priyanka, great. Go ahead, Vistas.
Priyanka, one of the sort of discussions that we're having in the United States is the value of higher education and whether we need more students just getting degrees, or we need students getting degrees in very specific areas. The national education policy seems to broaden it out a lot. It's much more than the Sarkar Commission in 1948 that was very technical. So what's your view on sort of education for the sake of education, knowledge for becoming a learned citizen, versus a degree that gets you into the workforce?
Right. So, Vistab, I would like to highlight AICTE, which is the organizing body to govern the technical institutes, has stopped giving permission to start an engineering college unless and until they are coming up with relevant engineering courses. They need to have emerging technologies taught in the universities. Only then they get the permission to start. So that's the reason why several universities are now defunct. It is not functioning because they are not imparting. And that goes on to speak that there is no point in creating engineers, increasing the number of engineers who are not adding value to the technical force. There's no point in teaching them the subjects which are not relevant anymore. So now that the government is giving emphasis on this, I think in some time, maybe in a decade or so, we'll definitely see more changes. We'll have more cybersecurity experts, more AI experts, more ML experts, more research in these areas. Is also in management, we may have everything governed by AI, just as how the world is changing, how the technology is changing. So all I'm trying to say is that there was a time when everybody wanted to get into a particular system. Say, for instance, engineering is in demand. So you would find a lot of youngsters getting into engineering without realizing the application of it and the utility of it. But now we have put a cap on it. We are focusing on emerging technologies, things which are of use to us. Otherwise, there's no point in youngsters wasting their time and resources in studying a subject which is of no use. So I think that goes on to explain that, yes, the interest is now shifting a bit.
The EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Hey, everybody, head over to www.edupexperience.com, our website, where you're going to find all of the episodes that we've recorded categorized so that you can ensure that you're spending your time listening to the podcasts that are most important to you. You're going to see the reviews of our podcasts, the shows in our network, our partners, and a section on starter episodes. If you're new to the EdUp Experience, listen to those starter episodes and get a feel for how the podcast has evolved over time. and our impact in the world. www.edupexperience.com.
So if you look at the standard that is there in most Indian families, at least it used to be when I went to college in India, was basically doctor, engineer, lawyer.
True. It
Has
is still
this
the same.
changed significantly? And what can
Yeah.
so what can the press do in order to show that there are far more jobs and far more ways of being prepared for a very good career and a very good life, so besides these three?
I totally agree with you. We still have that as the basis of our education. Every middle class family, the dream is to make them engineer, doctor, or a lawyer. But these days, they have realized the importance of other things, other subjects that are coming up in a big way. The problem is that there is a huge divide between metros and smaller cities. In the smaller cities, the perception is still the same. They still think engineering is their green card to maybe go to America or any other bigger country to earn more money. The media needs to educate them about the new subjects that are coming up in a big way, which are far more paying, which are important, and which are closer to somebody's talent. The schools are transforming. These days, gone are the days when you would be a topper if you're doing well in math. These days, a lot of other things. The creative line is also coming up in a big way. Students are getting to know as to how they can hone their skills and get into music. They can, combine technology and music. They can get into management, but they can get into sports management, which was not there for a very long time. Maybe liberal arts has come up in a big way. Policy making has become a prominent subject. I know a lot of students who are taking that subject and doing great. Economics is doing very well. Finance is one subject which a lot of people want to do. Commerce has come up in a big way. Arts, which was at one point in time looked down upon, has become a very prominent subject. I know a lot of toppers who want to get into arts because they love the subject and they know what they want to do. Not everybody wants to be an engineer these days, which is actually a relief. We don't want mediocre engineers. We might have an exceptionally talented economist or a finance expert. So I think change is coming and gradually we are reaching there. We are looking at the talent that our children have.
Priyanka, you told me when we were together, you were telling me about some test that there's some kind of is it an accounting test or some kind of test that that students were being pressured by their parents basically to take. I don't remember if it was a law test or an accounting test of some kind, finance test, where if they failed, that's when they would go into other areas, right? Other educational areas, but that everybody was being pressed or pushed to pass some exam of some kind. What is that exam? Do you remember that conversation we had?
Yes. So we were talking about the entrance exams that India is famous for. We have limited number of colleges and more applications. So for that, we need entrance exams, and those are taken very seriously. We spoke about NEET and JEE, Joint Entrance Exam, which is an exam for engineering, and the toppers get to get an entry into Indian Institute of Technology, which is a premier engineering college. So, of course, there is a massive craze for JEE, and cracking JEE is not a small thing. It's a big thing, and I think 1 to 1.5% student clear it. The number of seats are limited. So we have JEE Advanced and JEE Main, which gives you entry into IITs, and there is a massive craze for this exam. Every student who's taken up science as a stream after class 12 needs to crack this exam. Only then they'll be allowed to get into it. And the craze is so much that it has led to the culture of coaching in India. So cities like Kota, Bhilai, and some southern states also, and Pune also has a few coaching centers. where students come in a big way from smaller cities. They stay back in those cities to take up coaching for 2 years, only to crack the exams. And some of them do. Those who are really talented, they crack the exams and get into IIT. But this craze in general is way too much. It's very heavy. It's like a very, very strong craze, and catching up is not so easy. It's too much of pressure for students and the parents who want their children to crack.
Is this because the families in India, I mean, is engineering the path? Is that, you know, like you said,
Yes.
best aspects, lawyer, doctor, engineer, you know, and that's what you're going to do. And so you feel this pressure, this, you know, what is it? Unrelenting pressure. I mean, it sounds like it's really, really tough.
It's very tough. JEE is not very easy to crack, but you know what? The culture is sort of increasing. I would like to tell that Indians are very competitive by nature. So now that they have realized that not everything is engineering, so even CAT has become a very, what should I say? It's a very competitive exam. It's common administrative test for B schools, IIMs, and you know, the management schools. So the students are equally focused on clearing CAT. Most engineers, after doing the engineering, they are the ones who try to crack that exam. Then CLAT is coming up in big way, which is for the law exams. Then we have NEET, which is for the medical college entrance. So all I'm trying to say is that for each of these exams, the pressure is massive, and there are a good number of students who are trying to sort of clear these exams. So there is this overall culture of clearing the exam, you know, going for the coaching, preparing for these exams. So like right from grade 10, the students are completely focused on clearing the exams, getting good grades, getting into these decent universities and everything. I'm sure Vistap would agree with me. So the pressure is massive. Only thing is now it is diversifying. It is moving away from engineering. Besides engineering, they are also giving equal focus on law and other exams. Management is also coming up in big way, but the pressure is not going away anytime soon.
Yeah,
Everybody,
I mean, if I could
Just to put it in perspective,
yeah, go ahead.
just some numbers that Priyanka might want to talk a little bit about. If I'm not mistaken, for the JEE in 2021, 22 lakh students, which is 1 lakh is about 100,000. So 22 lakh students took the JEE, and 2 lakh students, which is 200,000 students, took the CAT.
Wow.
So the competition,
that's a big number.
Fierce, and it's a huge number when you compare it to the number of students across the United States who are competing to get into colleges, any college. And then if you look at this is only a small segment of the Indian population.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize this, what it sounds like, Priyanka, what you're saying is this pressure literally drives people crazy. And then they come to the United States and become professors of mechanical and aerospace engineering at universities in Texas. That's what I hear, right?
Well, that's one way to look at it if you wanted to.
Well, just I'm just saying. I mean, you know. So competition is fierce. So what is the? Are there companies in India or universities in India that are trying to expand out of India, or are there universities in the global community trying to expand into India?
There are several global universities which are trying to come to India, but the government policies are such that they cannot set the campuses in India, just like how they have in Malaysia and Vietnam and Dubai maybe. We cannot have a dedicated campus of, say, University of Birmingham or any other university. So they need to collaborate with the local universities, and that is happening in a big way. A lot of research work is taking place. Research is one area which is comparatively weak. The funds are less in India. So a lot of universities are collaborating with Indian universities, and they are coming up with research programs. A lot of MOUs are signed, and they are doing a lot of things jointly. A lot of new subjects are introduced, exchange programs are taking place. So the expansion is happening in a big way, even if it is not in the form of dedicated campuses. But yes, the collaboration is there. IITs are collaborating regularly, and a lot of research work is done, which is related to India and to the world. So yes, it is growing.
Vistas, if you have more questions, rock and roll, my friend, and then we'll close out with the final two when you're done.
Sounds good. Priyanka, what do you see now as the sort of increasing roles of, say, private universities and colleges in India?
I don't know. A lot of people look down upon private universities. But in India, that's the way it is. Private universities and private schools have been growing in a big way since the 80s. I remember 80s was the last when children went to the government schools, at least those who could afford to. After that, everybody wants their children to go to private schools. And when it comes to colleges, they are more they are keen to have their children going to the government schools. They want their children to go to IITs. They want their children to go to IIMs. But the private colleges are increasing in a big number. A lot of them are introducing decent faculties. They have big research laboratories. They are giving lot of importance to new subjects. They are introducing new subjects, and curriculum is changed as per the demand. So I think we need to encourage, the government needs to encourage the private universities as they are encouraging the local government universities. So yes, that needs to be done if we want our students to study, because the population that we have, we need more universities, and government cannot do it all by itself. So let the private universities come up, let them have a proper guidelines. They need to just follow the guidelines that imparts proper education. So that's the only way I see we can make the education sector grow.
What do you see as the role of online education and digital education in all of this?
I think the pandemic played a vital role in expansion of online education. This is something which we never thought of. We never thought that India would ever reach this level. It happened because pandemic happened, and the colleges and institutes and the schools had no option but to move to digital platform. The digital platform has worked very well for the urban students, but it was a disaster for rural population, especially those who come from poor background. It was absolutely devastating because not everybody can afford to have laptops. Not every family has 4 mobile phones, smartphones, so to say.
Somebody's got to get that door. It's an Amazon package.
So sorry.
That's okay.
So, yeah. So as I was saying, the poor students have suffered a lot. There are many students who went to school and the teachers were the one who gave them the knowledge, and they studied only because the teachers were dedicated and they were making them learn. But all that stopped because of the pandemic. And that's where the problem is. They have gone back 3 years. All the efforts, everything that was made by the local teachers, the NGOs who are imparting education, that has taken a sort of, it has not worked in their favor. So online education has worked for the universities, but it has sort of not helped the rural population, the poor students who were supposed to learn more. So I think that area is something which we need to address, or else open up the schools which are closed.
Priyanka, we'll ask the same 2 questions to close out every episode of our guests. And I'm going to ask them to you. Number 1, Priyanka, what did we not ask you about your role at Times of India? Anything you want to say, any stories you're working on, any events you're going to be attending? Really, you can plug anything that you have going on in your life related to Times of India. And then secondly, what do you see as the future of higher education?
So I'll take the second question first. Future of higher education is pretty bright. I'm happy that government has woken up. It has formulated the NEP. Only thing that is important is to implement it properly. We have HEIs, the higher education institutes, which are doing very well, but we need to continuously change it. We can't just become complacent, because we just don't have the time for it. Whatever education we are giving, we need to be at par with the global education system. We need to understand what the world demands now, where the technical knowledge is moving to, where the management is moving to. So we need to match pace with the international education system. HEIs, the government need to give more funding to private and government institutes, so that more number of students get the knowledge that they are hoping to get. And we need to retain the talent. We don't want to lose them to any other bigger countries. We want them to stay here, and we want them to teach our students. The new generation needs to learn from the students who have been taking education. And we want these CEOs to be in India, and they should have a startup in India. They should start something in India. We should not lose them to America. Of course, that is my personal thing. As an Indian, I would like to say that. And the second thing that you asked about was about what Times of India wants to do. Times of India is diversifying. We have our own university, which is Bennett University, which is sort of focused on several subjects, many new subjects also. So, and as an editor, my focus is to educate the students and make them understand about the newer courses which are coming up in a big way, the jobs that we have in the market, but there are not many takers, because people are not educated enough. They do not have the right skills to take up that particular profession. So I want youngsters to understand, instead of becoming mediocre engineers, they should become, maybe better professional, maybe a better designer, or, better lawyer, or maybe a creative art person, or a liberal education expert. So my focus is to educate them, so that they know that there is a diversity out there, and engineering and medical is not the only profession that will make you go.
Wow, I love it. Well, speaking of exports, we do have with us today somebody who went to college in India, ended up in the United States, and he is my co-host today. Of course, he is Dr. Vistas Karbari. Thanks again, Vistas, for coming on the EdUp Experience.
For having me. Excuse me. Thanks for having me here. It's a wonderful experience. Plus, it's always great to talk about India.
If I had my cough button ready, which I don't, I would have hit it right there.
Well, I was just trying to add to your repertoire if you actually recorded it.
I had it and I just moved it. You got so lucky. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it was an honor today to have with us. Her name is Priyanka Srivastava. She is senior editor at Times of India Education Times. Priyanka, thank you for getting up so early and coming on the EdUp Experience today.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. You made the morning beautiful. Thank you, Vista. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.